Plenty of guitarists write songs, but Mark Tremonti wrote anthems that defined a generation. As the Grammy award-winning guitarist and songwriter for Creed, he sold over 50 million albums worldwide, creating riffs and choruses that filled stadiums and became cultural touchstones. After the breakup of one of the biggest bands on the planet, most people would have faded. But Mark doubled down, launching his next band, Alter Bridge, which went on to tour arenas worldwide and build a massive global following. Then he pushed further with his solo project Tremonti as the lead singer and frontman, proving once again that true artists don't stop when one chapter ends, they write another. And now, after years apart, Creed has roared back with one of the biggest comebacks in rock, packing arenas with fans old and new, spanning generations with kids who weren't even alive during Creed's peak, now screaming every word alongside their parents. And this man who taught himself guitar as a kid, Guitar World named Guitarist of the Decade. But he's more than a guitarist. He's a painter, an author, and by far one of the most creative people I know. And more importantly, he's one of the best fathers, husbands, and friends anyone could ask for. When his daughter Stella was born with Down syndrome, Mark didn't just face the challenge, he turned it into a mission. He launched Take a Chance for charity, and in one of the boldest pivots in rock, he created a Sinatra album. Mark pulled together many of Sinatra's original band members, earned the blessing of the Sinatra family, which was no easy feat. And the album went straight to #1 on the Billboard Jazz charts, raising tremendous support and awareness for Down syndrome. That project helped launch the Stella Tremonti Down Syndrome Clinic at Advent Health in Orlando and continues to fuel a movement through his partnership with NDSS. And for me, this one's personal. Mark's one of my best friends. He's the guy who dragged me out of my shell to do karaoke, which a lot of people may regret. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to back him up at parties, which I absolutely love. He's real, he's relentless, and he's constantly pushing his own limits. From arena-shaking riffs to Sinatra swing, and now one of the biggest multi-generational comebacks in rock, Mark Tremonti proves that legends aren't defined by what they avoid, but by what they overcome. Mark, welcome to Legends of the Arena.
Wow, what an intro. Who's this guy you're talking about?
Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
this is great.
Well, Mark,
to hang out with you for a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. So, Mark, we joke around about this phrase all the time. There's dreamers and there's doers, right?
Yes.
So when you go back to that kid, like, what was the age when you grabbed that axe for the first time? And were you already in the doer phase? Were you the dreamer? Like, what is where you are now because you were already wired at that time? Like, I'm just gonna do this thing, and how relentless you are and focused, and you became that? Or did you have this vision of, I want to, be one of the biggest, bands of all time?
I remember being back when I worked as a line cook at Chili's, and thinking this job sucks, but one day I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to get on stage, and I'm going to do what I should be doing, writing music and performing music. But when you look back on it, you see how difficult it was to get through all the hurdles to get there, and you realize how naive it was to think that way. But sometimes that naivety is something that is a powerful force to have. If you believe you can do something, even though it's one of the toughest things in the world, who's to tell you you're not able to do it if you work hard enough,
What was the entry into the guitar, by the way? I mean, obviously that was the initial door opener, and like, when did what was the connection there?
I had a good friend of mine named Kevin Rausch, and he had his brother, older brother, who listened to metal and punk, and he had a guitar in his room, and I could hear it. I'd be at his house having dinner, and I'd hear his brother playing guitar, and I'd be like, "Do you think your brother would let me just see the guitar, touch it, see if I could, strum a chord on it?" He's like, "No, he'd kick your ass." So I'm like, "Oh man, I just want to see it." And then I was, anytime I'd hear something on the radio, whether it be, Jay Giles band or Boston or whatever it was, I'd hear these riffs when the band would stop and it would just be the guitar, and I'd be like, "Wow, I gotta buy a guitar one day." So my one buddy, Jeff Blake from Detroit, was upgrading his guitar to I forget what brand he was getting, but he had this imitation black Les Paul called a Tara, and he sold it to me for $10. And that was my very first guitar. And the funny thing is I wanted a black Les Paul. That was my dream guitar. So I had something that looked like my dream guitar. Sure didn't play like it, but it was something that I remember going to sleep and waking up just staring at it, just obsessed with it. And I learned how to play myself. I went to one guitar lesson, and the guy tried to teach me the Mel Bay book, teach me, Silent Night or whatever, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And I was like, I'm not going to learn this way. I'm going to learn on my own. So that's what I did.
And
Tell me, how did you do that? How did you teach yourself?
Yeah.
I just grabbed the guitar and I loved it so much. I just fiddled around with it. I think the first thing, people don't talk about, you have to learn how to string the guitar up, how to keep it in tune, how to, hold your pick and all those simple things that a teacher would normally show you, but I kind of learned that on my own. Back then we had no YouTube, we had no internet. So it was just fumbling around with the guitar. And my brothers would make fun of me. They'd say, you can't even play a song from start to finish. I could play a part here and there, but I could never play whole songs. And my brother would challenge me to play like Ice Cream Man by Van Halen. And I'm like, I can't play that. You're out of your mind. So for a lot of years, I wasn't very good, but I was creative. That's why I'm glad I didn't take guitar lessons. I became a young songwriter. I bought a 4-track Fostex XP something, XP100 or something like that. No, that's a different thing. It was a Fostex 4-track, and I learned to write songs, and that was what I was more into. I was more into being a creative person, singing along, writing melodies, writing lyrics, and the lead guitar kind of came along for the ride along the years,
And who were some of your inspirations on the songwriting side early?
I don't think I ever had an inspiration for songwriting. My thing was, I remember very clearly when I was young, I would listen to albums and I would hear parts that I thought were genius, but then the rest of the song would bore me. I'm like, why can't somebody just write the emotive part for the entire song? Why can't it just be like that the whole time? And little by little, I'm like, well, if you like something, why don't you do it yourself? If you want to, everybody has different opinions on what they like. So why don't you become a songwriter and write exactly what you want to do, what you think is good? So that's what I did, and hacked my way through it. A lot of my initial stuff was horrible, just like everybody else's probably. Well, even I'm sure Paul McCartney wrote some bad songs when he was a kid. Everybody does. I think it's a learning process. You gotta love it. You gotta chase it. Funny thing is, one of the songs that I wrote when I was a kid, I stored for all these years, and I put it out on my debut Tremonti album, a song called "Wish You Well." That song, I must have written it when I was in junior high school.
It's a great song. It's one of my favorites. Obviously, as most people who follow Tremonti, it's an epic song. Well, Mark, how many hours, considering you started sort of late in life in a way, considering how much success you were able to achieve early in life, right? Because when you broke through, how old were you at FSU? Like when
I think I was 24, I believe.
24. So you started guitar, 10 years prior?
No, I started guitar when I was about 12 years old.
Yeah. All right. So you got 12 years into it. How many hours, when it comes to songwriting and also playing guitar, like were you just obsessed with it? You loved it so much that you were just grinding out. Like what was it like that allowed you to get there that fast?
Yeah.
In a way?
I think over the years there's this ebb and flow of the extreme want to play and to learn. And there'd be days where you're playing guitar for 8 hours a day, and there's other days where you don't pick it up at all because you're busy. But I remember talking with John Petrucci, and he once told me that before Dream Theater would have practice, each guy was required to practice for 8 hours before band practice. So it goes to show you the discipline, how hard that discipline is, and how disciplined you have to be if you want to reach an elite level. And I don't consider myself at that level quite yet, but it's guys like John Petrucci that don't ever let up. You're putting in the hours. There's no one thing that irritates the hell out of me is when you get online and you see somebody say, "Oh, you want the trick around all the hard work? You just got to learn this little trick and you'll become a pro in no time." That's not true. None of that stuff is true. It's all snake oil. The only way you're going to get good at a professional instrument at a respectable level is if you put in a lot of hours.
Yeah. I think everybody, when they think of you guys were like quintessential. I think at least the perception is you guys were a young college band that just struck gold, like super, super young and almost easy in probably a lot of people's minds. What was, and I'm dying to get, there's so much to talk about post that and everything that's been happening in the last 30 years or 20 years, but was there any moment in that where did you just knew you had something like in your gut? You were still young. Was it the mentality like you're young? There was like no hesitation. You're like, this is going to happen. I already could see it. Or were there dark moments in that journey, even though it happened so fast where you were like, I don't know, what am I doing? I need to go to school for accounting or something,
Yeah, no, it never felt like an overnight success, even though it might have seemed that way from the outside. When you're young, time stretches out longer than it does when you're older. So the few years that it took for us to get out there with any kind of level of success took a lot of work. But it was, I think when we were playing bars, I remember one night me and Scott Stapp got on, it was an open mic night, and I was playing with local musicians in Tallahassee trying to find whatever bands I could. Because when I grew up, I was in a band in Detroit when I was in 7th, 8th grade, and we went recorded at a professional studio, and it's one of the most fun times of my life. And then my parents moved me down to Florida, and nobody in my school played an instrument. So I had nothing to do until I got to college. So I went to college. I ran out and met everybody I could, played open mic nights. And when Scott Stapp moved to Tallahassee, we got together and did an open mic night at a place called Yanni's. And throughout the rest of the night, everybody's just drinking and partying while bands are playing. But when we got up there, the whole place just stopped and stood slack-jawed because Scott's voice in Tallahassee was just amazing. It was something that you don't just see popping through a college town too often. So when we played, the whole place stopped to listen, and we're like, we got something here. And then we saved up to record some demos, and actually those demos became the actual album. We just remixed it. So the professional record that we put out was just the demos that we recorded with the money that I earned at Chili's, that Scott earned at Ruby Tuesdays, and Scott Phillips worked at a knife store. So he knows a lot about samurai swords and knives. And Brian Marshall was the lucky one. His parents were pretty well off and put him through college. So he didn't really, I don't think he had to work a side job. So we saved up our money, recorded this album. I think it cost us about $4,000 to do it. Back then, that's a monstrous amount of money. And then it became what it is now. And thank God we put in the hard work. So, because when we put out the first single, back to the question of, did I know there was a certain time when we were going to make it or not? We were at a place called Floyd's Music Store where we would play weekly for maybe 50 to 100 people of our friends there. And then our single got on the radio, and it quickly became the top requested song in the city, And I remember sitting at the bar before a show, and this older gentleman comes in, and he's like, "Have you heard this band Creed before?" I was like, "Well, I'm actually in the band." He's like, "Well, you better go backstage because there's a line a mile long outside the building." And I just, my heart rate just shot up. I went backstage, and I kept on peeking out of the door, and the place was shoulder to shoulder packed. You couldn't squeeze another person in there. And I think I threw up backstage. I was not the confident guy on stage that I've grown to become. It was a very nerve-wracking thing, but after that night, I think we knew we had something happening.
What was of all the gigs in that era? What was the show that you were like, holy shit, I can't believe this is like, real? Like, what was one of the most special performances you had in the first run of that whole thing?
I would say that show I was just describing, that show at Floyd's Music Store where we sold out. We sold out the venue where, as college kids, we would beg to play Floyd's because it was the big place where a band like Tonic would come through. Professional bands came through there. And for us to go in there and sell that place out when we'd seen a lot of professional bands come through to a half full house, and then we're these just college idiots. We just thought of ourselves as guys that worked at the restaurants and put together demos, and all of a sudden it catches fire on the local station. And from there, it was just record labels started coming. Record labels started coming to see the band. And I remember we did a show at a place called, I believe it was Floyd's Music Store. And Wind Up Records came down and they sat us down and offered us a deal right then and there. I think we also put our CDs, our local CDs, in the music stores. So when the record labels came calling, they called the local music stores and asked how many CDs we're selling. And they say, well, we've sold out of them all. And that's what a record label wants. They want to see that this band's going to move. They're not just a good live band, but they're going to move CDs. So we were doing just that. They came down, offered us a deal. And when we signed the first deal, if you know me or you know anything about me, I don't like needles. So when we got our first contract, Scott Stapp and Scott Phillips thought it would be funny, I think maybe even Brian, to sign the first contract in blood just to know that they meant it. And the record label sent it back and said, you can't have red blood on your contract. It's not, sign it in blue, you idiots, and send it back.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Mark, what was you guys are on top for a long time, right? This is teeing up this next incredible chapters that you embarked on. Like, what was it like for you in that moment of you guys are feeling like you're on top of the world? The band breaks apart, right? And you're trying to navigate, like, oh shit, what do I do? What's next? Like, just what was going through your head at that time, and where was your mental state of like what you were going to do, and in what you were dealing with at the moment, how you were looking forward at it, beyond it?
Yeah, I was. Music has always been, outside of family, the most important thing to me. It's something I couldn't live without. So it was a very stressful moment for me. So I did everything I could to prepare. I was writing songs, writing music. I'm always writing music, but that time especially, I was trying to come up with the best stuff possible. And I went and I taught. This Shilpa Patel wrote some of the Pro Tools books, and she taught me to become an engineer, a Pro Tools engineer. So I believe I became certified. I think you take a test and you become a certified engineer.
For sure.
And so I did all that. I learned how to record demos at my house. I'd either have Scott Phillips or Eric Friedman come over and play drums, because that's just something I never was good enough to do my own. I could do 4 on the floor, but I wasn't good enough to do it up to par or up to snuff for a real demo. So I'd have those guys come in, play drums, and I wrote all these songs. And a lot of these songs became the part of the first One Day Remains record, the Alter Bridge album. So songs like Down on My Last and Broken Wings and, just as many songs as I could put together. And I sent those demos to a gentleman named Miles Kennedy, who used to open up in a band called the Mayfield 4 for Creed. And I used to have a very, very dear friend of mine, Kiki Gutierrez, and he, when he knew that Creed was kind of on shaky ground, he was like, you remember this guy, Miles Kennedy, sang in this band, Mayfield 4, and he put the CD in his car and played me a song called Summer Girl. At the end of Summer Girl, his voice is just insanely good. And I was just thinking how perfect it would be to not try to repeat Creed. I don't want to, that's something you can't do. I wanted to do something as different as we could at the moment. So I wanted to find a singer that wasn't just trying to replicate Scott. So I found Miles, this incredible tenor, and he flew down. We all picked him up. He sang over the demos I sent him, and he loved the songs. He sounded great on the demos. He flew down to Orlando, and I told him if he, it was a joke, but I was like, if you want to be a member of this new band, we didn't have a name yet. This new band, you've got to go on the world's tallest free fall with me. If you really want to show show what you're made of.
This is your hazing. This is the new hazing.
This is hazing. We'd get in trouble for hazing nowadays, but back then it was still fair game. So I took him to the 300-foot tall, country's largest free fall, and it's on video. I don't know who has the VHS tape anymore, but he was holding on to me for dear life. It was a funny moment.
So if anybody's listening hasn't heard Alter Bridge, so I am not a heavy metal guy. Like I was a just regular rock guy, hip hop guy, and Alter Bridge is so melodic in cinematic. It is like very powerful. Like it turned a lot of people onto it. It's like it's a different kind of hard rock, heavy metal. Definitely encourage people to check it out. It's freaking amazing, beautiful songs. And Mark, in this chapter, tell everybody like what was the you had to sort of bet on yourself in this Alter Bridge phase. Like you personally put a lot on the line to go make this next chapter happen. You didn't want to sort of just go off into the night and do side little stuff. Like Mark has a thing, Justin, of like going big all the time. He's super big on details. Like it has to be perfect, right, and just go. But like, did you just know, Mark, in your heart, like, hey, I got the music. Like, I don't want to take the back seat. I want to like put the pedal to the metal again and just go. Or like, where was your head at in the next chapter of like, did you know what you had? Did you have any doubt, hesitation at all in your mind at that moment?
Yeah, we've had doubt and hesitation ever since the very first single came out. In the rock and roll world, people say, you're going to be a one-hit wonder. And then the next thing is you're going to have a sophomore slump on your next record. And the fans could disappear. And you're going to, it's always doubt. Everybody's going to doubt you, especially when they're the business people, because they want to hold you more accountable and have you fight for survival the whole time. That's what we were doing. And I think a lot of that caused some of the initial, trauma that caused Creed to break up. Is the business around it was such a cutthroat thing. It was never hey, we're great, we're doing well. We could never sit there and enjoy it. It was always a fight for survival. We're always treading water. So when Alter Bridge was coming out, it was that times 10. We were in dead survival mode. There was no nothing but surviving. So it had to be as good as you could make it. You had to work very hard. And when we came out, I remember we had a party up in New York. The record label threw us a party because the record went gold right out of the gate because it shipped so well. But then it wasn't Creed, it wasn't selling millions of copies. It was doing well, but every song wasn't going number one. We only, Alter Bridge we've had one number one hit at radio, but the rest of them, it wasn't doing in the United States what Creed did. So the record label noticeably took the foot off the pedal, and it was just obvious to us that things were not being said to us. Things were going on behind closed doors, in our opinion, that didn't reflect it wasn't like it was with Creed. You could just get a sense that it wasn't being worked the same way. So we negotiated for a buy-off of the record label, and that was a very excruciatingly difficult thing to get through. And in the end, it was a very costly thing to do, and it really set us back financially. And to be honest, it wasn't that debt was not even paid off until about a couple of years ago. So we went 20 plus years or 20 years or so of carrying this debt. And then when we signed with Universal Records, it was just the straight up record label. You're going to be great. This is going to be awesome. And you're a star. Let me pull you aside. You know how good you are. You're a star, kind of a thing to each and every one of us. And then when it comes out and it doesn't go gangbusters again, like the Creed stuff is, they go to sleep and don't return phone calls. So we had to again buy out of our Universal contract.
Wow.
Then we finally find ourselves.
Sorry, Mark, when you say
Yeah.
buy out, maybe just explain for us that aren't in the music business. What does that mean?
When you have a contract, Creed was signed to a 7-record deal.
Okay.
So we would have been, and then when we signed Alter Bridge to Wind Up, we had a multi-record deal with them. So we had to come to terms with them to see financially if we could pay to get off of the label so we could be free agents again, just like an athlete would.
Got it. Got it.
So then we, like I said, we had to do the same thing with Universal Records. And then we found ourselves with a mostly European-based Roadrunner Records, which we absolutely loved. They killed it. They did everything we wanted them to do. They were passionate about it. Each and every person in that record label loved the band. They did everything they could. And we saw this immediate success over in Europe from that. And for the first time in my career, I remember when we came out with, it was either AB3 or Fortress. I think it was AB3, where I felt like, you know what? I'm not fighting for survival anymore. Now I think I can do this music thing for the rest of my life as long as I work hard at it. Our fan base we had built up at that point with Alter Bridge was a very passionate, solid fan base. It still wasn't the millions of people coming to buy Creed records and Creed concert tickets, but it was a very solid thing that we could count on. And that lasted till this day. We just have this great, especially over in Europe. In the UK, it's our biggest market for Alter Bridge is the UK, and we've announced our very first festival that is called the Blackbird Festival that we're doing at Cardiff Castle here this next summer. So it's
awesome.
Europe is, when I get on the mic, whenever we play Tremonti in London or Alter Bridge, I like to remind people that without them, we might have retired. Especially the UK. If the UK didn't stand up and support this band the way it did, we might have gotten frustrated with
Business.
With the business of the music business. And it just popped from there, and all over Europe it started catching fire, and then all over South America and Australia and now America. America kind of came along after the fact, but now America's really turned a corner and right in time for Creed to get back together. So it's now everything is solid.
Yeah. What was so tell everybody what was when you did Tremonti, right? So for those people who don't know, like you would sing back up on some of the Creed songs when you guys were performing. Alter Bridge, you've got a couple solos and duos with Miles, but going from being the guitarist on stage, sometimes singing, to the front man of your own band where you're the lead vocalist is a huge leap. And I could say this from someone who does karaoke now semi-professionally with Mark. Grabbing a mic on a stage in front of people is just a lot different than being up there. So what was that? What was that burning thing? Did you just you just wanted it like that? That is a ballsy move to go out vocally. I feel like singing is probably the most vulnerable thing you could do on the stage. In a band.
No, you're pretty good on karaoke. I'm not saying you're.
But I'm saying
in the same universe as
yeah,
Mark.
no.
You're pretty good around the karaoke machine.
I'm not thanks to Mark. Like Mark got out of me. I'm still working on it. But Mark, what was driving that? And I was always impressed that you made that leap and man, did you kill it. But
well, thank you. The funny thing is I don't worry at all about singing. I think I don't feel judged by singing. I feel more judged with guitar playing. So because people know me as a guitar player. I've put decades and decades into working on the guitar, and people expect a certain thing out of me. And if I don't produce that or I miss a note, it's much more frowned upon. With singing, I'm kind of the singer who didn't start singing until well deep into his career, so I'm not judged as much for it. So I can just have fun and be like, look at me, I'm singing, I'm enjoying it, I love singing. That's why me and you do karaoke, because I enjoy singing. But I feel like I'm a much better big band jazz singer than I am a rock and roll singer. I do, I like I love them all, but I have a limited range. A lot of the stuff that I write, I've got to tune so down, so low because my voice is much lower than I'd like it to be as far as a front man for a heavy metal band. But singing is that I've done it myself for my entire life as a songwriter. I love writing vocal melodies. I like writing vocal melodies more than I like doing anything else in music creatively. That's my favorite thing to do. So
why is that?
it's the most emotive thing. It's what people connect to. It's what connects people to the song. Of course, there's guitar riffs and guitar parts that make that might give the people chills or something in a guitar solo. But like David Gilmour will do that to you. But it's much more often that happens with a vocal. Vocal is the most emotive instrument in the world. I think guitar could be the second most emotive, and then maybe a alto sax after that. But there's nothing like being able to sing to express emotion and the feel of a song. So that's to
it's
me
spiritual. There's something, and Justin and I talk about this too. By the way, Justin's the only other person I've ever sang on stage karaoke with. After you, Mark, that you got me out of my shell. But we talk about this all the time.
I deny that.
Yeah. There is something spiritual about singing. Like it touches your soul. Like there's something about it. Like, man, it's like even people, if you've never sing, you don't know how to sing. There's something about it. Like if you could just let go, like it is crazy. Like if I could come back as anything to be a singer, if I could have one talent, it'd be an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but I think the closest thing we have in the world to magic is music, because music moves people more than anything else that is an immaterial thing, intangible thing. It's this crazy thing that will get people to tattoo stuff all over their bodies. Or I've had dozens and dozens, maybe 100 people over the last 30 years come up and say, your music has saved me, or maybe not to me specifically, or they might say that to Scott from, Scott Stapp or Miles, but your band's music has saved me. Yeah. And for music, like I said, for something intangible to make that much of a difference in somebody's life, that's as close as we're going to get to magic.
Yeah, that's powerful. All right, so that brings us to your next and one of my favorite parts of your story, which is your baby girl Stella and the Sinatra phase. So Mark has two awesome.
There's
Stella.
Well, she's kind of all over. She's all over my studio. She's all over the studio.
But Mark's got an incredible wife, Victoria, and two awesome boys, Austin and Pearson. And they were blessed with a baby girl, Stella, a few years back. And Stella was born with Down syndrome. And this has been such an incredible blessing, gift, experience for, I know, not only Mark, but all of us involved in their lives. But Mark, talk us through that moment, and then I want to get to what led from there to Sinatra and everything that you're doing now in this new phase. But walk us through, for you, any parent who has a child born with special needs, what that's like, and especially where you were. Like, I think it's such a great, powerful story when you share this.
Yeah, I think up front it was something that I was a little frightened when we heard the news. When my wife went in, we got the test, and they tell you your daughter is going to be born with Down syndrome, and then immediately they hand you all this paperwork where if you want to terminate the baby, this is what you do, and it was just this dark. And it's just horrible that they do that. It's horrible that that's just part of what the nurses should do when you get that news. It should be more like, congratulations, you're going to have a beautiful life with this beautiful child. So I was nervous because I never really knew anybody personally with Down syndrome. I've met people with Down syndrome, but I never had family members or anybody close with family members that had Down syndrome, other than my wife, who has a cousin who lives in Trinidad with Down syndrome. So when she found out she was a rock. She wasn't worried at all. She she kept me afloat there mentally. I think I went into about a week of conversations with God, saying, why is this happening? What should I do? How would I do something wrong? But then I think you realize, everything's just from that point on. Once I snapped out of that, especially after she was born. When she was born, the minute she came out, she's been the light of my life. She's my sunshine. Um, I have friends that have known me for decades that say I'm a much better person since she's been born. I don't yell and scream at people anymore. I'm just smiling all the time, because when she walks in a room, she just lights up the room. She's just, if she can't make you smile, there's something wrong. You're a robot, because she's the happiest little ray of sunshine in the world. So it's, when you meet people, they're like, "Oh, sorry." It's like, there's nothing to be sorry about. This is, we went through one difficult thing where she had to get open heart surgery. And sure, it is a lot of work to have a child with Down syndrome. There's a lot. If you want to have the best life for your child, you have to go to lots of therapies. You have to stay on top of everything. But it's very rewarding at the same time. There's nothing we enjoy more than going and watching her go to therapy and learn, and having her learn, and smiling when she goes to school and seeing how that therapy is paid off. It's not something that should bring anybody down or hold anybody back. This is, in the Down syndrome community, and all the special needs communities are huge and so supportive. The autism community and the Down syndrome community and all the above. It's you almost find another enormous, huge family that are there to support you.
Absolutely. Yes. Stella's been a blessing to a lot of people, and especially with what you guys are doing, it's going to be incredible to see the impact she's going to have on the community here moving forward. So Mark, you're fired up, going through this experience as a new parent with a child with Down syndrome. You're experiencing a lot of frustrations that, and all the emotions that are going into it, the resources are available, all these things that are happening that you're sort of struggling with. Why doesn't this exist? Like, there's a lot of some problems, the way the insurance companies deal with Down syndrome, the way clinicians allocate time for appointments. There's all these things that you're experiencing on the front lines that, as only Mark Tremonti does, he doesn't take anything just sitting on the sideline. He's like, why does it have to be this way? Let's do something about it. And so you're wrapping your head around that, and then simultaneously, you've got this brilliant idea for a project that has been a passion project of yours for a long time, and most people wouldn't guess that you're an absolute Sinatra mega fan, and he's been an inspiration to you. But to tell everybody the story about how this came together with Take a Chance for Charity and the Sinatra project and everything that you've been doing and revolutionizing over here.
Yeah, I think it just seems like this almost spiritual thing that's happened. Like, when I was into Frank Sinatra, I've been into Sinatra for my whole life, but I really just went deep, maybe about 7 years ago or so. And I was just in love with it. I'm like, I want to sing like this. I want to learn everything about it. I read all the books. I read about all the, that era, the 40s, 50s, 60s, big band jazz era. And I just fell into it. And I didn't know why. And I was practicing singing like it. I'm like, I want to sing just like I would practice the guitar. I want to learn how to sing like Frank. So I would just obsessively break down what he was doing. And I remember getting online and trying to look up people teaching how to sing like Frank Sinatra. I'm like, none of these people sound like Frank Sinatra. It's like, you have this tenor singing nothing like him, telling you how Frank Sinatra sings. I'm like, that's not how I'm going to learn. So I'm like, let me learn how I learn guitar. In my downtime, I would break out my laptop and I would listen to phonetically how Frank Sinatra sang, and I'd type out the the words phonetically, and then his phrasing was so unique and different. He phrased almost like a trombone player. So I would scoot his vocals around how he sang them, and I would make notes on how he would vocalize his vowel sounds, and where he would put his vibratos, and every little thing I'd memorize, and I would try to get it as close as I could and once I did that, I tried to turn it into my own thing a little bit. And then I still didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then after we had gotten the diagnosis, I kind of thought, I'm like, well, maybe I should, maybe there's a reason why I've gone down this thing. Maybe there's a reason why when I read Frank Sinatra books, I read that he raised over $1 billion for charity. And he's this humongous philanthropist that people don't really talk about that with Frank Sinatra. I think it's a shame because he did so many things and never searched for the recognition. He would do it undercover. He would get his friends, get him on a private jet and say, you guys are meeting me at the jet. Don't ask me why. I don't want any press there. And he'd fly to go to an injured fireman who got burned, and they wanted to raise this money for him. So they brought all these celebrities, and Frank didn't want to have anything to do with the press. But it inspired me. I'm like, you know what? I want to do this in Frank Sinatra's name. I want to raise money. I want to, maybe there's a reason for all of this. And I still think there was a reason for all of this stuff because the stars have aligned so much along the way. I told my manager, I want to record a record of Sinatra covers. I want to do it for charity because he was such a charitable guy. And let's find some local musicians and record a record. He's like, why the hell are we going to get local musicians? My guitar player growing up was Frank Sinatra's touring guitar player. Like, you got to be kidding me. So he's like, all right, let me set up a meeting. Dan McIntyre was his name. Dan McIntyre, and then Mike Smith, who was, band leader for Frank and Frank Jr., and, big time music genius. And he had a lunch with him, said, I've got this guy I manage who wants to do this Frank Sinatra record. And they're like, well, can your boy sing? And Tim had never heard me sing Frank Sinatra, but he's like, of course he can. So I remember getting on my cell phone and going, here, Tim, and I'd be like, they call you Lady Luck, and I'd sing a little bit of Lady Luck to him. And so then they're like, even if he can sing great, it's going to be impossible to use these songs because, the Sinatra family, they don't just allow anybody to go use his name and likeness and use these songs. It's very, very rare that that's going to happen. So
to emphasize that point, the last time they did it was Michael Bublé prior to Mark. It was a long. They're very protective about licensing the rights. Sorry, Mark, keep going.
Yeah, So what we plan on is let's go up to Chicago. We found this great studio. We went up there and recorded 2 songs. I'm in a room with the guys that played with Frank Sinatra on stage because these guys still call all their friends from around the country and along the world when they have gigs because there's this small group of these incredibly gifted big band jazz musicians. They all stick together. So whenever I go on tour, I go to London, I'd say, how many of you guys played with Frank? And almost all of them raise their hands because they've been doing it together. So I get in the studio, 15 out of the 17 musicians were Frank Sinatra's touring guys. 2 of them were younger. And everybody asked me, like, how were you nervous as hell to do that, to get in there and sing with Frank's guys? You even asked me that. And no, I'm not. I couldn't be more prepared to begin with. I'm excited as hell to do it. And what's somebody going to say? You suck at raising money for charity. You raise this money for charity and you're terrible at it. No, if you're going to do something for charity, that's the whole thinking behind Take a Chance for Charity. Nobody's going to judge you if you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart to raise money for charity. So if your whole life, you wanted to be a professional singer and you're a athlete, go sing and do it for charity. That way you can get that out of you and nobody's going to make fun of you. Everybody like, you know what? He's actually a good singer. I thought he was just a great quarterback. So Take a Chance for Charity is just that. Take somebody who has a following of some sort of platform and have them do something that their followers would have no idea that they would ever do. Something that would shock them to get people to go, oh, I gotta see this person do that. And that's what we did with with Take a Chance for Charity with the Sinatra record. So after we did the first two
Dude,
songs,
that's so inspiring. That's
Isn't
so
that great?
shining light and doing some good. We need that in this world right now. God bless you. That's awesome.
thank you, and I hope
I
it
mean,
catches on. Well,
yeah.
thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I hope it catches on more. I hope more and more people, because you know how it is when you have drinks with somebody and you talk about a project and they say they're going to do it. Sometimes it just takes 5 years to get somebody to do it. It's a hard thing, and I understand it's hard to get somebody to fly somewhere, record in a studio, and do all the marketing behind it. But I think now that we've done this and it's been as successful as it has, and we've opened up the hospital with the fundraise, the clinic with all the funds raised. Now it's time where we can approach people with the real cause and effect of what we've done and get some more people on this Take a Chance for Charity kick.
Absolutely. It was exciting too. The clinic now, it's in its second year. So because of all the work and effort that Mark and Victoria have been doing, and Victoria also joined the board of NDSS, which is the National Down Syndrome Society, has been a huge impact player of helping to launch all this stuff. The Tremonti's, there's a clinic in Orlando now, which is awesome already. It's insanely busy and looking to expand at the moment. But they built a clinic with Advent Health here that's absolutely awesome, and Stella's name is on it, which was such a cool thing to see in the beginning of, I think, lots of big chapters to come of what's happening on that front. And Mark, what was like what's next, like for you, like what and I just got to set the stage too. So I come from the TV world. I think I'm a reasonably creative person. And I can't get on the phone with Mark or be in a room where there's always some other thing he's got cooking in his head, right? So like it are great ideas. Like it's always like, damn it, I wish I had more time. Wish we had capital, but like it's these super creative with movie scripts and books. Which, by the way, Mark's an author and has some awesome. He's got an awesome book that's been out. He's working on another one, children's book, all these different things. So he's literally he was into painting, still isn't a painting, but is always doing stuff. But like, what is the next thing for you right now? Like, is there anything you're just nagging at you that's your next? If you had the time and energy, you would be sinking into it.
As the next thing for me is, people have been talking a lot about new music for Creed. So that's something that's kind of weighing on me now. That's something that's very important. That we have an Alter Bridge record that we're very proud of that's coming out in January. And I knew once that was behind me, now I could focus on the new Creed stuff. So I've been spending a lot of time organizing that, and I look forward to getting together with Scott and piecing that together, because I think that's a very important record for the band now, for the success we had this last year or so. It's everybody said, when you go back on the next tour, we should have some new music. So that's my next big thing. But at all times going forward, we're at the clinic and NDSS and the Down syndrome community is really what's kind of the most important thing that we do. And my wife is, just yesterday, my wife was on a 3-hour board meeting call going over everything NDSS, and this has been great for her. I think she came into this a little nervous to be a public speaker or any of these things, and I think she snapped out of that. And now she's killing it. She's on the board of the biggest Down syndrome organization in the country, and my boys have stepped up. My oldest son Austin went up to Washington when they were speaking with Congress about passing new laws for the Down syndrome community. That my son got up there and spoke, and he wasn't nervous at all. Like I said, if you're doing something for charity or out of to try to help people, you shouldn't feel nervous about it. Just get up there and do it. My boys have stepped up, and my wife is, she hasn't been on stage for the last 30 years, but she gets up there now and she's got the confidence because she's been exposed to it. She sees the good it does.
Yeah, get the purpose and cause. It's crazy what that'll do when you tap into it.
I've had a chance to meet her. She's a wonderful lady.
Well, thank you very much.
She is madly in love with you and is your biggest fan. That's
Oh,
very cool. That's very cool.
well, thank you.
I've got a question for you. So I want to mix it up here a little bit. Well, one, what can people do to get involved with the National Down Syndrome Society or your hospital in Orlando? What can people do to help?
Well, the next thing coming up, we have December 4th. I'm performing at the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, and that show is all to benefit the clinic. So we have VIP tickets that are a little more expensive, but it's all for charity. So we have that. We still have tickets available for the show in general, but there'll be QR codes where people, when they go to the show, they can donate directly to NDSS or the clinic. You can go to takeachanceforcharity.com, and there's ways you can donate straight through the site. And get on the NDSS's website, see how you can participate in any kind of way. They like to organize with all the local organizations as well. So if you're in a local organization, try to connect, try to do some good, and join the local walks. The Down Syndrome Association and Foundation here in Orlando have walks and get-togethers that we go to all the time. The one here in Orlando is huge. It's one of the biggest ones in the country, I believe. And we go up to New York and we do the buddy walk for the National Down Syndrome Society, and sponsor somebody on a buddy walk. Come buy some of the auction items at the Sinatra show in December, on December 4th here in Orlando, or we're going to Nashville in a few days. Me and my family have the Tremonti Golf annual golf outing for the National Down Syndrome Society, and it's going to have Mammoth performing, which is Wolfgang Van Halen's band, and I appreciate him so much. He's like a brother. And then we have Alter Bridge performing its only show of the entire year there. And then I'm going to be performing with the Sinatra guys at the same golf event, and they'll have all kinds of auction items to raise money, and and it's a lot of people are coming out, and it's
Love it. What are the dates, Mark?
October 2nd, Nashville.
Okay.
And we're actually doing it at a Top Golf where there is where there's an attached music venue. I think it's like a 600 capacity venue that we're going to perform at. And then in December, we have 5 shows for the Sinatra shows, where all the Sinatra shows are for charity. December 4th, we're here in Orlando. I haven't memorized the other dates yet in December, but if you just get on the TremontiSingSinatra.com or takeachanceforcharity.com, I don't know if it's .org or .com, but you'll find it if you look for it. There's 5 shows in December. We do Chicago, Orlando, Jersey. We do Red Bank, New Jersey. We do can't even remember it all right now, but all that stuff's for charity.
You can count the dies. We'd like some VIP tickets, so we'll be in touch.
They're in.
We'd love to.
Awesome.
Help. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Sorry, John. I'm going to be selfish.
Yeah, keep going.
All right. So I am a struggling guitarist, and I literally got my guitar right there, and I'm learning C, D, G, F. I'm in F's hard. So I'm working on it. So as one of the greatest, I'll say this, you won't say this because you're very humble, one of the greatest lead guitarists on the face of the planet, what is your Mount Rushmore of lead guitarists?
Oh, geez.
You could add a 5th if you feel like you're leaving somebody out, but I want to put you on the spot.
I would say Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jeff Beck. I'll have to go all with classic players because there's so many great new players. There'd be way more people than Mount Rushmore could hold. But as far as classics, God, it's tough to say, man.
Jimmy Page, would he be on there?
Jimmy Page, yeah. I'd say put Jimmy in, put the 2 Jimmys, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix.
Hendrix. Yep.
Jimmy Page to me is just one of the greatest writers, composers ever, ever. Some of his guitar parts are, like I said before, about a guitar part giving you chills. Jimmy Page was just full of that. And then Jimi Hendrix, he just started playing in a way that just changed the way guitar players play for the rest of humanity. He was just such a vibey, cool, emotive, inventive, great guitar player. That's why everybody say he's the best guitar player of all time for all these years, because he just influenced the guitar in such a way that just changed the way everybody plays.
Now, is it true that he played left-handed and played upside down?
Yes, that's what they say. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, I wondered if that was true or not. That's
Well, then
it's amazing.
yeah, and then you have guys like Albert King who kept the strings. He'd pull the strings down, and that's why he'd have those big wide bends, and how he would phrase that Albert King style that he plays, because he pulled his high E string would be on the bottom, and he'd pull it down. I'm sorry, it'd be on the top, and he'd pull it to the ground.
Mark, what was strings? Huh?
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, don't ask Mark to give you guitar lessons, by the way, as a newbie. Mark, it's really, here, I'll just teach you a basic thing. And then he'll sit there, like Mark's basic version. I can't keep up with what you just did.
No, I've got a great intro guitar lesson that I teach a lot at my guitar clinics, and it's
oh yeah, your guitar clinics are fantastic.
How do we get involved in that? How do we get
whenever we do a live show, I do guitar clinics. We're not doing it in December because it's just a short little run, and we're not going to bring out my whole clinic rig. But when we do the Ultra Bridge tours over in Europe in January, February, I'll be doing guitar clinics. I did them all throughout the whole Creed tour. Anytime we have a show, there'll be a guitar clinic available.
It's super cool. It's like an intimate room of like 20 people, and it's Mark, and they just jam together, and Mark's teaching them. It's incredible to see the looks on everybody's face.
Do you put the really bad people like over in a corner someplace and put like a sound?
No, there's it's not.
I need a spot like that.
Yeah, no, it's not something where everybody's plugged in. People bring their guitars. If you don't want to bring a guitar, you don't bring it. You just sit there. I have a lot of people that just want to sit and watch. Because a lot of what I do is I talk about how I write songs as on the creative side of guitar playing, and I tell people how important it is to be creative on the guitar and not just be. There's a million guitar players better than a lot of us that will never have a career doing it because they're not writing songs or being creative. They're just playing like other players and shredding, which is fun. But I think it's more important to be a songwriter, so you can have a job doing it. And I spent a lot of my clinics teaching how I approach it. There's no rules to how you write. Everybody does it different, but I just kind of show a couple ways people can get started as a songwriter. And then I just show some lead techniques. So it's about half and half: lead technique, how I approach leads, and then the songwriting stuff. But you don't have to play. You can sit there and not have a guitar and just watch.
What's your thoughts on AI and from an artist's perspective now, and all this AI music stuff that's coming out?
Oh, I was just thinking this the other day when I start doing interviews, because I'm flying to Europe on Thursday to do 2 weeks of interviews for the new Ultra Bridge record. And you always want to tell people, you should really enjoy these next 5 years, because this will be the last time in the history of mankind where you're going to know that art of any kind has not been tampered with by AI. Anything from painting to movie scripts to books to music to everything is going to be, AI is coming in, and you're not going to know the difference because it's getting so good. And I have friends. We have our friend Dave Cassesi, who has this account called AI Dave, and he'll send me songs. He'll be like, "Yeah, check out my new song." I'm like, and he loves it. He just loves diving in and writing these songs. And these songs are great. They sound great, but you can tell right now, the AI stuff.
Dave worked with son Baker Dye up at John's place when we were having a jam session, and Dave was great. He tried to show me a couple things. Forget it. Your son, he's got promise.
Yeah. No, he's fun, and And AI right now I think is fun for people to mess around with and tinker around with. But I don't think it's going to be so fun when artists are kind of just edged out of what they do. And you're going to see that quicker, I think, in the people who are maybe graphic designers, creating a menu for a restaurant or their websites. All that stuff's just going to be AI's push a button and it's done, and all these people are out of work. Um, and with music, it's just coming. You're not going to know what's real and what's not. It would be great if there was some sort of program that could filter some sort of way to be able to tell it is to keep people honest. But I don't think that. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I just sent John an interesting article. I think it was in Harvard Business Review. I don't know if you got a chance to look at that email, but it talked about AI in terms of sloppiness. So, like, it's really good to fine tune what your thoughts are, but so many people are just outsourcing thinking and the writing to it. So people that are reviewing it, whether it be editors or whether it be bosses, et cetera, they're looking at it and stuff doesn't make sense. And, so the large language models haven't caught up yet, and they may never. I mean, who knows? But it was interesting to say, you know what, we're getting ready to send out an investor update or a deck, a sales deck or something. And there were a bunch of things in there that made no sense. I mean, the words were correct. They were correctly spelled, but made no sense. So I'm hoping there's still humanity. I'm hoping AI can't feel in the future and love, appreciate. And, I think it's going to be, everything's now kind of handmade or, small batch crafted. If you look at bourbon, hopefully we'll be in that age where people actually care about what if someone really did it or not.
Yeah, and if you're lazy enough to use AI for your job and not check yourself if the AI has messed up, then you should just retire.
That's basically what this thing said. It said you better not be lazy and use AI, which a lot of people I think are.
But the AI could be, it could be the worst thing in the world, but it could also be the best thing in the world. I think medically it could cure everything. It could cure everything quickly. I just hope I hope that mankind allows it to do its good and doesn't prevent it. But I do think because of the accessibility that people have to AI, you can be conspiracy theory and say, oh yeah, we've cured cancer a million times, but everybody's hiding it from us for population control or because of financially it would destroy all these companies or whatnot. But since AI is so accessible, I don't think that's going to be the case in the future. I think if things are cured and things are happening, it's going to be way more difficult to cover up if that was the case.
I love it. All right, Mark, last question for me. What's the one piece of advice after the journey in the life that you've lived and the obstacles you've overcome, right? If you're giving Austin and Pearson one piece of advice, right? Not for the young people listening, for anybody that's in the arena of life, that's taking swings, trying to chase, dreams, passions, like what's the nugget that Mr. Tremonti's passing along for them?
I've seen it time and time.
Baker die and Carter die. Tune in, listen to this.
Yeah, and Oliver Nasher too.
Yes, I've seen it time and time again. The people that I know that just put their head down and when the rubber meets the road, they are working, following what they are passionate about. More times than not, those people find their way and have a career doing that. I've seen the opposite where people have the benefit of getting lucky and having success and they don't put their head down and work and they lose it quick. It's those people that didn't have it, that work hard, that keep on working hard, that end up thriving in the long run. And even if it didn't work out for somebody, I'd say in general it sounds like a Hallmark card. But I think don't don't come into the world just trying to make the most money more than the next person. Try to find something that's going to keep you happy and keep you satisfied. That more than anything would, I think happiness is worth more than all the gold in the world, So I would say to my kids, find a job you enjoy. If you have a job that you hate, quit. Don't go 5 years hating a job before you change. Quit immediately. Find something you enjoy.
That's
Absolutely.
great. That's great advice. So here's a couple of questions for you. So any thoughts on college football? Knowing that you're a Seminole, and how you feeling?
Well, I'm a Seminole and I'm a Clemson Tiger. I went to Clemson my freshman year. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so I've gotten to see both ends of the spectrum with both of my teams. So when I was at Clemson, I saw Florida State come and kick our ass
Yep.
over and over again, and then I graduate, and then I see Clemson kick Florida State's ass, and it's kind of
That was the Bobby Bowden era.
Bobby Bowden. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bobby Bowden. We love Bobby Bowden. My drummer Scott Phillips is a diehard Florida State fan. You could be at a movie or a fancy dinner, and he'll be on his phone watching the Florida State game. He won't miss it ever. And then when they lose like they did this week, it was a good game this week, double overtime,
Yeah.
but they lost. And I'm I mostly I'm a Detroit Lions professional football, more of a fan of that than college, but my kids are the ones that keep me up to date with sports in general. They're the ones that are watching sports around the house all day long. But what drives me crazy is the red zone. I can't stand red zone. I'm like, just turn on the Lions, game. I don't want to see every game.
Spoken like a non-fantasy football
That's
official.
right.
Exactly.
Okay, last thing I've got. What are you listening to? What are you reading? Anything interesting topics? What are you digging into to satisfy your intellectual curiosity?
Yeah, I'm a big reader. I love reading. I think the last big book I read was Shogun, which I thought was phenomenal. Actually, no, I read The Conclave was the last book I read. I just finished that, but that just took a few days. It's just such a short book, but it was a great book, great movie. I think they did a great job with the movie.
Yeah, with Ralph Fiennes, the movie was great. I haven't read
Yeah,
the book. It was great.
yeah,
Yeah.
the book is great as well. Shogun is that's a big book. That's a great book. I have
That's a big book. It took you a while, I
yeah,
would
it's that's like a month read right there, but it's I have in my closet, all the shelves in the back are all my books. When I get home from tour, I'll take whatever books I read on tour and I'll look at my racks of books and I'll place it how much I liked it. So if it's my fifth best book, I'll have to shift all my books over. That's kind of like reading is one of my favorite things to do. But other than that, you asked me what I was reading and what else?
what are you reading? What are you researching? Any podcasts? Any topics you're digging into?
Right now, I'm nonstop going through organizing ideas for the next Creed album. So I'm, most of my day is me and my family. Stella, my daughter, takes up a lot of time. She loves, I say it all the time, but she loves her dad. She loves me. If I'm in a room, she just wants me to play with her. So there's, I wouldn't have it any other way. But most of my days up until I put her to bed at 8 o'clock. So by about 8:30 is when I can finally, do that research or read that book. So it's, it's never a dull moment.
What do you do when you say you research ideas? By the way, what for you when you're writing music? Out of curiosity, what do you do to research ideas like that for inspiration?
So as a songwriter, I write kind of stream of consciousness, and I will record as I write stuff. I don't find an idea and go, "Ooh, I better finish that idea and take a week doing this one idea." I'll write, and then if I'm not inspired, I'll write the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then I remember when I was writing with Miles, he was like, "Yeah, it's very interesting the way you write. You'll write and then you'll put it away and come back 2 weeks later with a fresh brain and then see if you like it and then categorize it." So that's what I'll do. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of ideas that I constantly categorize, put them in files of chorus ideas, verse ideas, bridge ideas, um, moody ideas, uplifting ideas. I'll have symbols next to each idea telling me how much I like it. I will organize it for the tempo, so I'll have them in order of speed, and then I'll have them in categories of tuning. So if it's in drop D, open D5, or open G, or this and that, I'll have. I hope there's never a moment where I'm writing a song where I can't finish it by just going through my cataloged parts. So what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks is just going back through all those parts, tagging ideas, making a huge list, which is about it'll be about 250 tagged ideas that I'll have to go through and see if they'll end up being anything. But I'll go through now, print out that list, highlight what I want to work on first. And then in a perfect world, what thing I highlighted will match up with another idea that I thought fit the vibe of what I'm going for, and whatever things that I don't have now, I'll write. And hopefully when I get together with Scott, we'll do a lot of that together. You know, a lot of lightning happens, and, you know, capture lightning in the bottle happens when you have a team or a couple of people working together.
Yeah. All right. This is my really last question. One song that you've written or sang, right? And I'm sure this changes over time, but as of today, right? There's one song that you've written or sang that is your favorite or your most powerful one, the one for you that resonates, right? If someone made you to listen to the song 50 times over again, what's the one song of all the years?
Let me ask and clarify, most inspirational to him at this moment or his best work?
Ooh, let's go both. That's two different answers, right? I'd love to hear both those.
I'm going to have to cut it up because I'll have to say, if you're looking at Creed or then Alter Bridge or Tremonti, because they're all different animals, they're all my babies. So I'd have to pick one from each, right?
Yeah. All right.
So I'd say with Creed, there was a song we did off the Full Circle record called Time that we all love. It's one of our favorite tunes, and we thought it turned out fantastic. That's probably one of our favorite songs for Creed. With Alter Bridge, Blackbird is by far and away, I think, everybody's go-to for favorite song, especially with the fans. With Tremonti, I'd probably say Dying Machine. That record in general, and that's the title track, Dying Machine. There's another song called As the Silence Becomes Me that has a special place in my heart off that record. So Dying Machine and As the Silence Becomes Me from the same record. And then with Sinatra, that's a tough one. You know, it changes for me all the time, but I'd say the most important song would be The Song Is You, because that's the song that I initially fell in love with Sinatra singing and wanted to learn. And that's the song I used to sing Stella every day. You know, I'd start singing it, you know, I hear music when I look at you. And she would smile. And that's one of my favorite Sinatra songs.
What was that one called again?
The Song Is You.
You.
So if you look online and you look up Sinatra, The Song Is You live, I think it's 1940. Might be 38 or 40. I can't remember, but it's an old video where he's singing in some kind of little theater, and he looks like a young kid, talks almost like he's nervous. You know, I'm Frank Sinatra. This is written by Hammerstein, and I forget the other writer's name, and it's called The Song Is You, and he's very kind of like a polite kid. And as soon as he starts singing, I hear music. When he starts singing, you're like, that's Sinatra. Even when he was young, as soon as he sang, he had magic. You know, he was, so when I first started wanting to sing like Frank Sinatra, I went back to his early stuff. I was very into learning. I wanted to start from the beginning where he started and learn my way up to the New Yorks. I was more interested in the old stuff because he recorded, I think it was over 1,500 songs, just a massive catalog. If you're a new Frank Sinatra fan, you don't ever have to worry about ever running out of stuff to get into. I think he had about 65, it was either I'm feeling dyslexic right now. It's either 56 or 65 movies that he was in. He, I said, recorded over 14 or 1500 songs. And then he had TV shows that he would host where he would sing throughout these TV shows, all these covers. So there's just an enormous amount of material if you're a Frank Sinatra fan.
It's incredible. This song, you got to check it out, Justin. It is like bananas.
But there's a million versions of the song as you that Sinatra would do. He'd do a lot of jazzed up versions. I prefer the ballad that he did back in, it might, like I said, it might have been 38, but it was fantastic.
Well, Mark, you're a Renaissance man, and it's, from my perspective, I'll let John wrap. It's been awesome, and congratulations with your family and with all your success. And you can tell you've got a humongous heart, and best to Victoria and the rest of the Tremonti clan. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. This was an honor. Love you, brother.
Love you.
On everything. Excited for what's to come. And so check out Sinatra sing. I mean, yeah, that's more appropriate. Sinatra sings Tremonti. That would be great. Tremonti sings Sinatra coming up in December. And it's a Christmas too. We didn't even mention this, but there's a whole Christmas album too. It's awesome. You'll hear it on Seriously Sing Sinatra. It's in rotation, plus on the Christmas channels. But anyway, please go support Mark and the Tremonti family and the Stella Down Syndrome Clinic and everything over at happening at NDSS. Take a chance for charity. The list goes on and on because that's who Mark Tremonti is. He's a huge dude with a huge heart doing a lot of stuff in this world. You inspire me, you inspire all of us, Mark. And congrats and best of luck on everything in the future, my man.
Thanks, brother, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Congrats, Mark.